Hello, everybody. Reggie Time here, and in just a moment, I'm going to be joined by Simon again to review some more hands. He didn't turn up yesterday, so we did that pretty dull 25 hour session. Now we're going to review some hands from a 25 hour session Simon played last night. So, yeah, I hope you guys are going to enjoy what's coming. We just have a nice friendly chat like we always do. I give him some old Nick type perspectives on the way he played his hands, and yeah, I enjoy talking with Simon. I think you guys enjoy listening to me talking with other people. So it's an extra bonus video to wrap up the year. It really will be my last video of the year, I expect. Cannot imagine me making another one this week. And next week, the prick that I married, she's off work all week. So it's kind of hard for me to find the time to make videos when she's at home throughout the day. So very likely it's going to be the last video before the turn of the year. So make the most of it, enjoy it, and yeah, leave some comments or hit like, share, subscribe, all of those things. Right, mate, over to you.
Okay, so we starting off here, King Ace cut off. Now this guy to my right is already shown a bit of aggression in this session, and his stats suggest that as well. He's got a nice big stack, but we'll see what happens. He raises it up. Pretty standard 3-bet spot, obviously. What are we thinking size-wise?
I'm trying to see what that is in big blinds. What's that? 12.
Yeah, why is that
30,
not in big blinds? Actually, that's a bit.
14 and a bit, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think it's fine when people are voting for pot. I've no issue with it at all.
So obviously everyone folds around, but he calls that. So interestingly, I'm already thinking, I should really be thinking here about, the fact that if you look at his stats here, he does fold to a 3-bet 60% of the time. So maybe that should be an indication for me. I don't know. Nothing exciting happening here. What are your thoughts? I mean, for me in my head, I'm just always checking here at this stage.
I think the problem is when we check here, we have to encounter probe bets on the turn. So if you're not going to be willing to call a turn bet, then I don't really like checking back very much.
I can't remember if I actually lead here or not. So what I just said may well be absolute fucking bullshit.
Well, if we are going to bet here, it just needs to be small. It's a paired board, We're just trying to basically. But the reason I bet here is to prevent him from just like stabbing turns and me not knowing what to do, just to collect any dead money that's out there if he's called out, with that, I don't know, Jack 10, King, Jack Queen, King Queen, anything that might just get there against us that would just fall to a small bet. We don't have to bet big because we're not trying to make you fold anything good. We're not trying to make you fold like pocket tens, pocket jacks here. If we can get him off pocket threes, pocket fours, maybe he doesn't fold pocket pairs for 1 bet, but then at least we get to see 2 cards most of the time, and realise all of our equity. So I think it's nice just to bet you like 1/3 pot in general on these like paired boards. We're not going to encounter raises very often. It shouldn't be raising very much here at all. And that small bet, sometimes it picks the pots up, sometimes it picks the pot up. It usually allows us to see the turn and river for the price of that 1 bet rather than checking back and then he leads half pot on the turn or he leads 2/3 pot on the turn. And we either get blown off the best hand or we end up calling because we think, well, we're kind of face up and, inducing bluffs. It just fucks. I think it fucks the game flow up if we don't see bet here, basically. And it makes life more difficult for us on later streets. So I'd bet like 250 here.
Yeah, okay. So I don't, which, I mean, like, I don't know quite. I think potentially there was a hand prior to this where he was involved and the same sort of thing. And I did see bet it, and he just, it didn't end well either. So I just made a choice there. But I think you're probably right. I think a third there is later in the session. I think I would have bet there and bet fold.
It just makes life easier. And I know we're not meant to do things just to make our lives easier. We're meant to have like better reasons than that. But it just does. It just makes the hand play out in a way that we know what's going on more. Imagine we check back here in the turn to 3 and he leads for $4. He's probably just going to have something between booking I don't know, pocket deuces and some worse hands. And we still have equity against a lot of that. This board just doesn't rate to hit him very hard.
Yeah, and
He's-
I think this check from me actually sets me up for problems later, which I just think that a view of not wanting to let this one go really, but so that very similar to what you said, isn't it? Now, he then does this, which is not unsurprising really, because I think the way I've played it, you're going to expect that in a lot of cases, aren't you? My error is that I call here, and I think that's a really bad play.
it's not ideal.
I've got 2 overcards. My thought process was I've got 2 overcards. I don't know what he can have here. I'm going to call it, and that was my thought process.
I think the problem here is that people don't probe this spot enough with like weak hands. I mean, if we thought that our opponent is just like betting his entire range here, then I think we have an uncomfortable but call. But in reality, they're not. They're probably not betting the Jack tens, the Jack queens, the King jacks, the ace jacks, the ace queens. But they probably always are betting their pocket eights, their pocket sixes, their pocket tens. So I think they're, even though people do, it feels like people probe a lot when we miss a C bet. I think in reality, it's not that frequent. We're probably seeing this bet maybe 30-40% of the time, and then out of that 30-40% of the time, it's going to be them value/protection betting with a better hand way too often.
Yeah.
But it's easy to get caught up in the trap of, well, this is the best hand I'm going to have that plays this way, because I know your game, I know my game. We're not 3-betting pocket sixes here, so we don't really have better hands. This is like, if we fold this, we're probably folding our entire range almost, because we're not checking back our aces, kings, queens, tens, jacks. We're not checking back any of them very often at all. So ace king then becomes like top of our range for reaching the turn this way. So then you're like, well, for fold this and folding everything, which is why I just prefer stabbing the flop.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just just keep picking up any dead money that's out there. It's like Wallace says on his Friday night. It's a phrase I like. He's just attacking the auto folds basically.
Yeah, and I just played the hand completely arse about face, because I just call it. We get that, and then he just does that, which I'm just obviously folding here.
Yeah, that's a big bet,
Yeah.
Because he like I said, doesn't rate to have too many strong hands. I mean, of course, he can have some strong hands.
Yeah.
He just doesn't rate to have too many of them. But he can very easily, because you know how these games play, he can very easily just have 2 queens here.
Yeah.
Because people don't 4-bet queens in these games. They just don't fucking do it. The amount of times I've like triple barreled in spots like this, and they've just gone call, they've like queens or jacks, sometimes even kings. So he can have more value than theory would dictate, because people's 4-bet range in these games are just so absurdly fucking nitty that people just turn up with queens here all the time and jacks all the time, and they just know they're good and they're just value betting them.
Yeah, and I'm not. I don't actually. I do fold here, but it's just I just mullered the hand. I think it's just. I think it all went wrong when I didn't see bet.
I think just auto C betting like 1/3 pot there is going to be fine, and you will get people who like you. You're only folding out worse hands, fine, but big deal. You're denying a little bit of equity. Sometimes you may be even value betting. Maybe he doesn't fold ace queen sometimes if we bet 1/3 pot. So I think there's merit to just betting there, even though maybe we've got better bluffs, if you will, or hands that want to bluff more than ace king. For example, if we had fucking an ace 5 suited or a king queen suited, maybe they would want to bluff more than ace king does. But I think when we've 3-bet pre, it's come down 9-9-7. I think C betting 1/3 pot with an absurdly high frequency is probably completely fine in these games. And then if they stay in the hand, just play face up after that, just give up basically, or value bet if you hit.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
It's very basic. It's not cutting edge, but it's very effective.
Yeah. Okay. You might not like I don't know what your thoughts are on this one. Not sure what your views on opening a suited ace in mid position.
No, I
but
think it's completely fine.
yeah. Okay. Um, so we just make the open, and we get one caller, and then we flop that.
Nice.
Nice. Not big enough.
No, not close to big enough.
No.
I mean, this guy's what 29/6. He can have like lots and lots of like, well, not lots and lots, but plenty of worse ace X. Yeah, it's just too small. Big hand, big pot. Again, pretty basic. We're playing against a fish. We've got a pretty big hand. There's definitely plenty of worse hands he can call. And realistically, we're only losing to pocket sevens. So yeah, just bigger.
Yeah. Agreed. I think not particularly nice card.
No, but he doesn't have to have a flush draw. He's probably
No.
got as much ace X in his range, if not more, than he has flush draws. So there's no reason to stop betting.
So we make it bigger this time. I don't know. I mean, obviously we make it bigger, but again, size-wise, where are you at with that?
I still would have preferred a little bit bigger, I think.
Yeah.
Because we bet small on the flop, he's going to get to the turn with a wider range. So there's just less reason to be quote unquote scared by the flush. And we can bet here, if we get raised, we just probably feel quite sad and just fold our hand because a 29/6 just is very unlikely to raise a worse hand here on the turn when like an obvious scare card gets there. If he just say, for example, he did have ace 7, he probably wouldn't raise that turn once the spade hits. He probably would raise the flop anyway with ace 7. But I just think there's no reason to be scared yet. I think our flop bet should have been bigger, our turn bet should have been bigger. And then we can decide on the river whether we want to put a chunky value bet in or just try and have a cheap showdown.
Okay. Yeah. He just calls. Horrible.
Yeah, that's a bad river. I think we either part of me wants to block, part of me wants to just check fold, but we don't want to put in a lot of money in here. Yeah, it's difficult to see where our value comes from now.
Yeah, I think we do bet here. I'm pretty certain. I'm pretty certain I bet.
The money is he can have a lot of like offsuit ace X. It's just got a spade with it. That's the issue. Ace 10 off, ace fucking 9 off. Who knows what? There's ways he can have. He could definitely have a spade here now. Give it how the hands played, and
Yeah, I mean, I think actually, if I remember rightly, I think I do check this because I just think, like, well,
yeah.
I think a check fold.
Yeah,
Sorry?
I like check fold here. I mean, there's 29/6. Is he going to just like turn an ace into a bluff if we check? If he has got ace 10 without a spade, for example, is he just going to bet with it? He's not. He's just going to be like, fuck, check.
Yeah.
Check call here. We need a passive fish to start turning made hands into bluffs, and I don't think that's happening anywhere near enough to want to bluff catch with that hand.
Yeah. So we do check. He also checks. So he's, with what he shows up here, you'll see why. But the river wasn't a great card for him either because he had that. So that's it was fine in the end. I don't think there was a real problem there. He's floated the flop bet. It was small. Maybe if you had made it bigger, he folds his sixes there. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't matter if he does or he doesn't fold them. We don't want him to fold them. We've got pocket sixes crushed.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he could maybe raise a turn when we only bet half pot from his perspective. There's not a lot to see there other than just big hand, big bets, and then I don't think you bet big enough on either street. As it happens, you maybe would have lost more because maybe if we do bet 60% on the flop, maybe he still calls sometimes. Probably not as likely to. But I think on that flop, I think like betting 1/3 pot out of position. I think it's if we're going to bet 1/3 pot, I think we want to do it in position. Out of position, we want to be checking more, and when we do bet, we just want to be making our bets a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of like the small bet out of position on flops and turns. I think that the time for blocking on out of position is ribbers mostly. Earlier streets, I think we want to be checking some semi decent hands. So we're not just like always betting big with our big hands and checking our weak hands. So we want to be probably some checks in there, but mostly when we do bet, we want to be north of 50% pot.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think that's definitely something I need to get right. I agree. Right, next hand. You should know. This is 25 NL, by the way, so you should. I would imagine you know some of this pool anyway.
The only one I recognise there is Agyam, who I think's a pretty decent player.
Yeah.
The rest I can't say I'm like uber familiar with.
Okay, fair enough. So we're obviously opening jacks. Lovely. So get a couple of callers. What's your thought process here, Reg? What are you doing here? Are you checking here to multi-way?
Well, it's just none of our options are nice. You know, it's like, we bet here. What are we trying to achieve? We check here. Do we expect players in this pool to value bet or to like bet with worse hands? I think they probably can, but I think it's going to bet one street and give up. Probably not. Especially not Agyam. I think, like I say, I think he's a pretty solid player. What would I do here? Both pretty well. Agyam's not tight; he's just decent. Jan seems pretty tight based on those stats. I don't like betting.
No.
I'm probably checking, seeing what develops. Probably not check folding for one bet. I think my plan here will be like probably check call once, and then start really hating life. But I think I prefer that to betting, because I don't really think betting achieves very much. Betting just sets us up to lose a bigger pot later in the hand. If we bet here when they call, then they might have some worse hands. They might have some draws. They might have some King X. It just doesn't feel like a spot where I want to build the pot. But then we're also going to be capping our range with a hand that can't really call down versus people who might attack a capped range. So it's just generally, it's just not a fun spot, is it? But I would definitely start by checking multi-way. Heads up, I would probably bet multi-way. I think it's just a check.
Yeah, so I do that. Yeah, I check. And we get 2 checks behind. So now with that turn, I decide. I think I lead now this turn.
Yeah, I think we're safe to start value betting.
And I think that's pretty much what I do. But again, it's going to come down to what you think of sizings.
I guess with this hand wants to make this size because we're trying to get caught by worse. So with this hand, we want to do it. But in general, I don't think we want to be using this size after we check the flop. So
we should be smaller, bigger?
Bigger, I think.
Bigger. Yeah.
And, try and get someone to like bluff catch with 8s, 9s, 10s, that type of thing. So yeah, I'd go a little bit bigger. Basically, my line here would be bet this street a bit bigger than this, and if the river breaks, check and probably call, and just hope someone's like knowing that we're weak, but maybe let's say for example, Agyam, he might well call us here with like a pocket 9s, pocket 10s type hand. They either check the river, or he might identify. I think he's a good player. He might identify, well, this guy can't be strong. He's pretty capped here, and he might just do something that many other players in this pool wouldn't do. I wouldn't want to. I'd be less inclined to check call Jan. If we bet here, say instead of betting 72, we bet say 130. Aggie calls, Aggie folds, and Jan calls. I'd be less willing to bluff catch against Jan than I would be against Aggie, because I think Jan's more likely to be face up based on his stats than Aggie is. Jan could be the type of player who just checks back a hand like King Queen here, King 10 suited, and then just never plans on folding it, and then maybe value bets on the river when it's obvious it's good when he gets checked in. Whereas Aggie, I think he's good enough where he might see this small bet, read it pretty well, and decide to just float to try and take it away on a later streak. Because I think Aggie's probably one of the stronger players in the pool. So I would have gone a little bit bigger. I would hope they both fold, just because it's the best outcome for us. It makes life easier. If they do call, I would check river 100% to both of them, and I would call Aggie and probably fold to Jan. That's how I know we talked about before we started recording about how I like try to forward plan. And I'm not saying that plan is a good plan, but it's better than having no plan.
Yeah, and I think maybe I didn't have a plan here with for the river, because you'll see maybe how that plays out. And he does call. Jan gets out of the way, and then that comes as a river, which doesn't help in some respects, because
well, no, but it probably doesn't have that much Queen X. I don't think it changes very much. I mean, this player probably just 3-bets Ace Queen pre, so although some players might have Ace Queen here, I don't think this guy's one of those people. He could definitely arrive at this river with plenty of like stuff that Jacks is better than, but nothing that's going to call if we bet again. So I think this is a pretty easy check. I'm probably just cry call against this particular player, because I think if he had a really strong hand, he wouldn't have like checked back the flop. He wouldn't have just called out like block a bet on the turn. So I think his range is pretty weak too. And I expect this just goes check a lot, and he just has hands like pocket 8s sometimes, pocket 7s. And when he does bet, I think he's going to have enough like Aries type stuff in his range that we can just call against this exact player.
Yeah, you're probably not going to like what I do then.
I don't think we can bet. Oops. Yeah, I'm not sure what we're targeting here. I mean, maybe he just gets mega sticky with like a medium pocket pair, maybe, but it's ambitious.
I just wondered. I think my thought process at the time was maybe that he was floating with a flush draw, and I don't know. Then you're not really gonna. He's not gonna call, is he?
So, no. So if he's floating with the flush draw, then we check to him and let him bluff.
Yeah. Agreed. It's why I tag these hands, Reg, because these are the ones that obviously I know that I'm not convinced I've played them particularly well. But he does fold. So all's well. But I don't think I particularly played that very well.
Yeah, there's an obvious disconnect in your logic, because you said, I think you could have floated the turn with a flush draw, and I wouldn't disagree with that. I think it's more likely to have like just floated the turn with like unimproved pocket pairs. But either way, we both agree that he doesn't have a particularly strong range. And then we bet into it when he probably can't call very often. When you've got aggressive players who reach rivers and you don't think their range is particularly strong, and we have a reasonable bluff catching candidate, then we should just try to bluff catch against them.
Okay.
In my opinion. There'll be a lot of people out there who are doing a lot of advanced solver work that will just say that's complete bullshit. But the vast majority of this pool won't be doing that. You've got to adjust to the pool that you're in. And, that is probably quite old school advice. But I play in these games enough to know it's still very effective. There's some players there I would not want to bluff catch with. Against him, he will be one of them, because I just don't think he can ever be strong. He hasn't 3-bet pre. He hasn't c-bet the flop. He hasn't attacked our turn block bet. So they're just like, he just gets through with such a weak range. But our hand's probably a little bit too thin for value once the queen comes as well. So if it's a little bit too thin for value, then it just goes like top of category 2 against somebody who might well attack us if we check.
Yeah. I mean, I would have check called there as well, and yeah. So you're absolutely right. Yeah, I wouldn't have liked it, but you're right. Yeah, it's the right thing to do. Next one. Oh, hello.
Yep, let's go, sir. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. I thought
I thought it was a statement, not a question.
Okay. Stand open there. Again, 2 callers. Again, multi-way. What are you see like multi-way here? I don't know I just don't know what to do here. If I'm honest, I'm not loving the flop, but I'm not hating it either. It's not a. I just, it doesn't hit effectively my. I don't have the range here, do I? It doesn't effectively hit my range. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts here are, I look at people like Don Dieu, who's like this. Like I know, like I don't know. I think you've watched a bit of Eastie as well lately. He is a stain on the game, as Eastie would describe. He's playing 16-14. He's not a full stack. These are sort of players that make this pool really quite dull and shit because like the nitty, they've got shitty stack sizes. So like it just makes life awkward. But I would just see bet here. I think there's value to be got from Macfish in the big blind. The reason I don't want to check is because like. Theory would say this is a pretty easy check call, but in reality, I don't think players like Don Dieu bet wide enough when we check to them to make us want to check call here. Theory would be a very easy check here, call a bet, see what happens. But this is again where theory and practice separate for me because I do not believe Don Dieu is going to bet anywhere near a high enough frequency to make us want to. Develop a check calling range against him, and I think we can get value from Macfish. And if we get raised, it's just a trivially easy fold. So yes. I would bet here, and I would probably bet around like 120.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I don't. I choose to check. I think. Yeah.
And again, this comes down to like us trying to exploit the field rather than play like theoretically perfect. Because field just doesn't stab enough here when we check. So if field isn't stabbing enough when we check, then we don't want to be like checking range here very often. Because what we'll end up doing is like just like missing value with our good hands and paying off too often with our marginal hands. A lot of people just say check ranges with their aces, they'll be like just check. It's multi-way, blah blah blah. Just check range. I don't agree with that in the slightest because these games just don't play that way. There's not enough players trying to play a theory-based game for us to want to play a theory-based game. I just think it's a spot where we just want to bet, deny equity to like just two random over cards. Like if John Dieu's just here with like a Jack Queen, I don't think he's going to bet very often when we check to him, but he's probably going to fold it when we bet, and we don't mind that because we're just just getting him off maybe 25 to 28% equity. Macfish can absolutely call with it. He's in the big blind. He can have 7x, 4x, straight draws, flush draws, and I don't think players raise draws enough in this pool. So I think we have a pretty clean bet fold here. It gets awkward if we bet and then Don Dieu doesn't fold, because that puts us in like a tricky spot on the turn. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. My bet here again would just be like bet, for, like just like deny some equity to like overcards from Don Dieu, and hopefully try and get a little bit of value from Macfish.
Okay, I do choose to. I think because it checks there, so I do bet. But again, sizing, I think. I don't know.
Well, again, we're trying to make a thin value bet, so we can't go too big. And like, what are we targeting for calls now? On the flop, we were targeting 7 extra call.
We don't want.
We're not anymore. No. And like anyone, I don't think Macfish has a 7 very often because I think he just leads the turn on a 7 a decent amount. They don't want to risk it checking through again. If anyone's got a 7 here, it's most likely to be Don Dieu. Yeah, I don't hate it though. We should have done it on the flop. But I don't hate it now because again, we don't mind just getting 2 folds here, picking the pot up, or maybe getting like a loose call out of Macfish in the big blind still.
Yeah.
So I still think there's a little bit of value to be had. So I don't hate it.
So Don folds, and we do get a call from the big blind.
I think.
Do we continue the story?
No. If he leads, we just fold probably, unless he leads small. This is a spot where I'd be like, if he bets big, I'm just folding. If he bets on the smaller side, I'm probably just cry calling. And if he checks, I'm just checking back. I'm not even thinking twice about it.
And I think that's how it plays out, if I'm honest. He checks, I check. And he's got pocket fives.
Yeah, so we probably weren't going to win too much more of that hand anyway. It's just like, that's, like, I know when we first started like chatting, we went a long way down the Doug Polk route, but that's because you didn't have like any kind of post-flop thought process whatsoever. And the Doug Polk route here is, right hand's category 2 on this flop because it's an underpair, therefore check. But in games with people like Don DeJour, who just aren't going to bet enough, I think we just bet more into them. We just bet, and just like don't bluff catch against people who aren't that likely to bluff, basically. So I don't have much category 2 in these games. I put like some of my best category 2s into a thin category 1, and then I just put some of my worst category 2s into just category 4, unless bets are really tiny. I think it's like important to identify. Like, we categorise our hands differently against different opponents. Obviously, we can't just say this is category 2 against everybody, because it's not. There's some people where you'd want to value bet 3 street to pocket 8s here, especially if you're in position. And then there's other people you want to just check for them 2 for 1 bet. So it's like it's understanding the pool in general when you don't have enough information on a player, and then when you do have enough information on a player, then just try and exploit as best as you can. And Don DeJour, half stacking Nate, isn't somebody you want to be doing a lot of like bluff catching against. It's somebody you just want to be like try to keep the pressure on them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okie dokie. Next one. So we get a limp from old Flash Mods here. As you can see, I mean, he's only 14 hands, but he's playing 57-7.
Yeah, we already know he's a fish, so that's happy days.
We get
the Min ISO. What a genius play from Bivoca.
Yeah, now, like,
I'd love to have Duesenberg in this call right now to get his opinion on the Min ISO. I think we could have 5 minutes of just you and I sitting back and listening and enjoying.
It would be glorious.
Yeah, it's fucking horrific. We need to 3-bet.
Yeah. Now, see, this is why you're not going to like what I do here, because I was a little bit I didn't know much about what this Flash guy was doing, and I just wasn't. You're not going to like what I do here anyway, because I just flat this, because off the back of some of the stuff we talked about last week, about the need. You said that we talked about having some calls. Now, I was just a bit concerned. I don't know why, but I was a bit concerned about what he was going to do behind me if I 3-bet here. And I don't know if that's the right or wrong thing to do. I don't know. I just don't think it was the right.
I think like
which is why this hand's in here for discussion, because I just don't know if I dealt with it right pre.
Well, the thing is, we've got a very good hand, and we've got 2 players who have both done something quite shit.
Yeah.
So to me, that's just a reason to pump the pot up, And I know that I've talked about limping in the past, and I think there is some merit to at some point try to develop a limping strategy. But he's not trying to develop. He's just that his entire strategy is fucking limp. He's 57-7. If he was maybe like 16-0, I'd have a bit more sympathy for the argument you're trying to make. But he's not. He's 57-7. He's a fucking idiot. And we're happy just to take the pot down pre. There's already like 4.5 lines in there. Just taking that down pre without a fight's nice. Clearly Bivoca's a fucking idiot as well, because he's just min raised versus a fucking limp. So fuck him. I'm not saying he can't have any good hands. I'm just saying he's clearly a fucking idiot too. So based on the fact both my opponents are clearly fucking idiots, I just want to pump the pot up with a good hand. And then if somehow there's another race before the flop, we can probably just, approach with severe caution. But right now, it's just full steam ahead for me. And I'd be making it something like $3.50 to $4. I'd be charging a premium here.
Yeah.
I'd be doing that. I'd be wanting to go at least 3x what's already in the pot. So what's already in the pot? $1.35. Yeah, $4. I'd be somewhere in the region of $4.
Yeah, so obviously I don't do that, so you can call me what you like for that one. Free reign. That's the flop. I'm just checking in to see what develops, obviously. So we get that.
It's raised all day now.
Well, actually, yes. I just call because I'm a cunt.
Yeah, it appears to me you don't like money very much this session. Because now we're going to
I
check.
like giving it away, that's for sure.
Now we're going to check, and there's a good chance our opponent's just going to check back or bet too small again, and we're going to struggle to get value. And yeah, fine if we're beat, we're fucking beat. It's our own fault for kind of not betting. Because he's gone half pot again.
Yeah.
I like raising less here than I do on the flop, because now we've got a passive player who's bet twice. I mean, obviously we're never ever folding. It's just like it starts getting a bit thinner. But no, fuck it, I still like raising actually.
I was going to say, because if that's the case, you're really not going to like what I do.
No, I still like raising because it's just too. It's
So-
too
so
shit
I
not
do-
to. He can just
I
have.
do,
He could just have too many worse hands still. Like I presume he's value betting here. I don't expect this guy to be bluffing very often because it's 57/7. But we can still get value from his value range. So yeah, I would have gone bigger than that though.
Yeah.
We're targeting worse Queen X, Jack tens, flush draws, 8/7. There's all kinds of hands we can get tons and tons of value from, and that's just way too small.
Okay. Agreed. Because he does call it.
It's a nice bricky river. I'd be going for a nice, healthy value bet here. I wouldn't be going less than 75% pot. Oh, that chuckle. That chuckle doesn't fill me with confidence.
I'm just trying to work out if you're going to snap and record the video here and never speak to me again.
Oh, what on earth? What is going on here?
Yeah. The only defence I've got is that I was lacking quite a bit of confidence in this session for some reason last night. I just didn't play very well at all. I know I didn't. I said that to you at the start. So I'm not quite sure if I'm worried about what I'm worried about here because there's nothing. And I don't know what I was expecting him to do because obviously he just checks it back. So we chose not to like money on this particular hand because that's what he had.
I mean, as it happens, we wouldn't have won any more money. But imagine if we'd have check raised a flop, he'd have called 100% without question because he's a fucking idiot. Then we could have made a nice chunky value bet on the turn. He would have called because he's a fucking idiot. And then we probably would just have shoved the river and he would have folded and we wouldn't have made any more money. But we'd have just played the hand correctly. You'd have had a lot more confidence and you'd have had a glorious red line victory.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I do have to do is give you an opportunity to call me a cunt at least once.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of cuntish behaviour going on there. I mean, if we 3-bet pre, he probably just fucks off, so we wouldn't even be looking at the hand. But 3-bet pre, check raise flop. If we are going to wait to the turn to check raise bigger than you did, and probably just value bet the river. There's a lot of people you might want to check to here because every fucking draw's missed. 8/7 clubs, Jack 10. So there's a lot of players you would want to check to, but not this guy because he can just have worse Queen X. Because he's a fucking idiot. King Queen, Queen Jack, Queen 10, Queen 9 we lose to, Queen 8, Queen 7. You can have all these. He's playing 57% of hands, so you're gonna have a lot of suited Queen X, a lot of 9X that just might not fucking fall because he's 57/7. He's a fucking idiot. We just missed an absolute shit ton of value here. Like pre-flop we missed value, flop we missed value, turn we missed value. We just missed a lot of value. We would have stacked him, but this pot could have been a lot bigger.
Yeah,
and should have been a lot bigger.
And this is exactly where I just don't take the value where I should. And we were talking about that before we started, weren't we? And that's definitely an area of improvement I need to work on.
When you're in these pools, these guys, they're like fucking gold dust.
Yeah.
If you look at the table, you've just got like fucking Don DeJure, shitting it, not fully stacked. Jan, boring bastard. The only time you're going to play a big pot with Jan is when it's just like a cooler. Digger is a Dan, not familiar with him, but if 25-13 is accurate, boring bastard. Then you've got the other two guys who are fish. When you get in pots with fish, you've got to be really, really fucking careful you don't miss value.
Yeah.
Because if you are missing value against these guys, you're just not going to beat the rake. because the rest of them are all boring cunts, and the pots are always tiny, and when they are big, it's just fucking set up a set or whatever fucking bullshit, or it's they've hit a set in a 3-bet pot versus your races or vice versa. Most of the time it's fucking dull because there's way too many fucking people like me, people like Jan, people like fucking Don DeJour. There's way too many shit boring fucking nits who aren't going to give you good action. So when you get a player who can give you good action and you get a strong hand against them, you can't be scared of getting value. And if you value on yourself now and again, then tough fuck, you value on yourself now and again.
Yeah.
You can't be scared of losing a big pot versus these people, because more often than not, when you're only playing big pots against a 57-7, you're going to have the fucking lion's share of the equity.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. I mean, this next hand might be a similar example, possibly. I don't know. See. Open. We've got just the one here. So, what are your thoughts here?
I think this is a super mega standard C-bet.
Okay. I think I oblige. Sizing wise,
I don't hate it. It's a decent board for our range. I think anything between like 1/3 pot to 60%, I think you can make a case for all of them. I have no issue with it.
okay.
He calls.
So he calls, and then we get a lovely card.
Nice. Now I have a major issue if we do not make a large bet here. And by large bet, I mean like 190 plus.
Shall we put a date in the diary for next week? Or
Oh, I'm not going to come with that 1/3 again, are we, or whatever? 40%.
It could be worse than that.
Please don't check.
Just close your eyes a minute.
Oh dear, what's coming next?
Yeah, okay. So I do check, and he leads.
Now we have to just put a massive raise in, like add raises up to like somewhere near $8, and just hope he's cooler to fuck with 2 pair plus.
Close your eyes, Reg.
Well, we're calling, aren't we? Oh dear.
Yeah. And then on the river, what do you think we might do?
Well, yeah. I mean, as played, we just have to check again and just like hope he's just got some random fucking bluff he's punting off with. I mean, we shouldn't be in this situation. But I mean, if we bet here, I mean, we just got to hope he has a king. But if he has a king, he's going to bet anyway. So to me, there's no real merit to it. As played, there's no merit whatsoever to betting.
So close your eyes, Reg.
Okay. What the fuck is... Right.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Had you been on the glue last night?
I had a gin.
Fucking hell's bells.
But yeah, I'm not. Listen, I hide nothing. That's I lay myself over.
This hand is pretty hilarious.
In the world.
This hand is pretty hilarious. Like, to be fair, and on every street. Well, no, the flop fine. You bet the flop on, but from the turn onwards, it's just been like, what is going on here? Yeah. I mean, we just want to try and get all the money against the king here, and we do that best by. I mean, if we check, if he doesn't have a straight, if he just, he can maybe sometimes bluff. The problem is if he does have like a set of tens or a set of jacks, he's always going to check back. But he's probably not going to call with those hands either when we take this line. The whole line's fucked. Just bet the turn and just fucking bet the river. Yeah,
I know.
The whole line's fucked.
I know.
I've no idea.
Listen, I could have hidden it away. I didn't. And he folds up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Muller Central, as I said, I did warn you at the start.
Let's go back. So why did you check the turn? I mean, the board's really good for our range. We've got the nuts, and our opponent called the flop, and then the turns come down, like a card that could in some way improve him too. You know, if he hasn't 3-bet jacks pre, then he's made a set. If he's got Queen Jack, he's made 2 pair. If he's got a set of 6s or 10s that he's slow played, he's going to call or raise. You know, it's just no reason not to bet that turn really, really big. Fine, we fold out if he's got any stupid floats. We fold them out. We don't care about that. Again,
Yeah.
so we have a very big hand, and we have an opponent who can also have like a pretty strong hand. There's just no reason not to just bet really big.
Yeah, it's just me being really, really passive or being trying to be clever, and it's just like it's just shit. I know it's shit because
that wasn't good, mate. In all seriousness, I know we had a chuckle, but that really wasn't good.
No, I mean that's like right. So that's why it's there. It's not. It like I just knew it was bad.
I would say that missing value in these games is the biggest leak most players have. It's certainly a leak you've got. And like the two things you don't want to do in these games are miss value and pay off too much. And that's probably the biggest leak most players have because they're too passive with hands they should be value betting, and then they end up paying off too much with them against a pool that isn't aggressive enough to want to like pay off large bets. So you want to be the one making the large bets and fold into the large bets, and you're not doing either based on what we've seen in this session.
Yeah, and I think we've spoken about those leaks already. It's a frustration for me to be talking about the same bloody hands and the same bloody thing because what you've just described me as a T, right? I pay off too much and I don't get enough value. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
Yeah, because if you got one of those leaks, you might break even. If you got both of them, you can't win.
No, absolutely. It's a bit of a fucker. It's a bit of a fucker. Have we got time for one more?
Yeah, we've got plenty of time.
Okay.
Especially which is hilarious as that one.
Yeah, I mean it's not one of my prouder moments, I have to say. But hey ho.
That hand was worse than my first shag, and my first shag was, well, I mean I fucking loved it, but I think the lady that I was with was probably underwhelmed, you know.
Yeah.
But she got me back by giving me a dose. So there you go, you know. Only I could get a dose after my first shag.
That's a pretty bad result, that, isn't it? So yeah, just pocket tens, obviously. Let me get the one call. I think it's fairly. I think I might actually lead this one, Reg.
I should hope so, and I should hope we bet quite big too. It's not a board we should be betting with a particularly high frequency in theory, and in practice we've got a 28-7. So just bet big, and if they raise at any point, just fold.
Yeah, I mean, don't get excited if I think I'll probably bet, but in terms of sizing, who knows?
Yeah, I'd have preferred bigger, but there's no, it's half pot. Can't complain with it too much. But against these players, I'm just going to bet big, hope they call, bet big, hope they call, bet big, hope they call, and if at any point they raise, unless I'm like somewhat nutted, they can just fucking have it because he's 28-7. He's a fucking idiot, and he's just going to he's one of these people we just talked about. He's going to pay off way too many bets, and he's not going to be aggressive enough. So we just punished what we perceive him to be like, which is he's a fucking passive calling station. So we make big bets against him, and we get the fuck out of the way when he finally finds a raise.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So he calls 5. We bet again. Up the size.
It started to get a little bit murky because this guy's a fucking idiot, and like the 5 does improve his range way more than it improves ours. Like Ace Deuce gets there, 6-7 gets there, 4-5 gets there. So it's not a card I'm thrilled about, but yeah, I like the fact we bet big, easy fold to a raise, and whether I'd value bet the river or not is like it might be starting to get too thin. My plan here would be probably value bet rivers smallish, assuming I don't fucking hate it, or if I hate the river, just checking back.
Yeah,
that's what I'd be thinking here.
So he calls Because this sort of player would float ace high, wouldn't they?
I'm not sure they float it twice.
Don't know.
I mean, ace high flush draws, I could see them playing exactly this way. If they just had a random like ace 10, I mean, maybe they would. They do pick up a good shot on the turn, but we bet pretty big. I'm happy just to go check here, and if he bets, I'm probably just not paying someone like this off.
Yeah, so he does check, and I do exactly the same.
Yeah, no problem with that at all.
And he's got pocket sevens.
Yeah, just got too thin on the river. That's it.
Yeah.
On the river there, if it's a turn, if it's one I don't mind, I bet small, and he probably calls with that. Say the river was like a 9, something like that, or maybe even a jack. I would maybe think about like betting 1/3 pot on the river just to get value from his pocket 8s, exactly pocket 7s like he's got pocket 6s. So I think that it's big, and then if we're gonna value bet the river, it's like big small against this guy, which again isn't something you see very often. You know, usually on the river we want to be making like quite polarizing bet sizes, but we're kind of pretty comfortable just against this guy, not worrying about betting small, and because sometimes if you bet small against a good player, they'll realise what you're up to and they might try and put you in the bin. He isn't one of those guys. Bet big on the flop because he can call with some bad hands. Bet big on the turn because he can skill score with some bad hands. Then on the river, we either need to check back or bet small because we don't want to blow him off hand. Like if we bet too big, he just falls pocket 7s. You want to be looking at what am I targeting here. I'm targeting pocket 6s, pocket 7s, 8x. And with that, I'm going to bet less than half pot and just like hope he flicks the call in. And we have a really easy fold if he raises, because how often does a 28-7 go? Check call, check raise, and not have pocket 10s crushed. So again, you know your opponent. I think that flop could have been a bit bigger. Turn, I like the sizing. River, I don't hate it because all of a sudden the types of hands we wanted to target 6s, 7s, and 8x maybe don't call anymore because there's a lot of stuff out there that then they could be scared of. So I like the way you played the hand.
Oh, I've redeemed myself somewhat then.
Apart from not betting the flop a bit bigger.
I think this is the last hand I've got to go through.
Okay, well, that's good timing anyway.
Out of last night's session, so this is just it's fairly standard, this one, but I know you're familiar with this.
I'm very familiar with him. He's a boring. Those 25-13 are literally that's who he is. I've got probably 10 times more hands than you on him, and he's that guy there or thereabouts. He's fucking boring. I think he's Croatian or something. I'm not sure. He's a very, 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 very boring. Just fuck off, NL Basmat. Just fuck off. He's a stain. He's a total stain. Just like he's exactly the type of player who makes his games so remarkably dull.
Right.
End of rant.
Fair enough. So I just obviously raise this up, pump it up.
Yep, I like it.
And he's coming along for the ride. Now, I think when we talked last week, we talked about we need to have a checking range with our best hands on the flop. But then we spoke a little bit earlier. You sort of said, well, no one plays near theory. So don't know what your thoughts are here, because I check this flop.
He wouldn't be one of the players that I would check to. But yeah, no. Against Agya, I would probably check this with a view to check raising him. Because Agya wouldn't have queens, for example. And he probably doesn't have ace-queen because he probably 4-bets that sort of stuff pre. So Agya's going to be more likely, if he does get to this flop, to... Well, I don't want to say more likely. But he's not likely to pay us off very often because he's not going to have much queen X. And, he's just going to fold all these like missed pairs that haven't made a set and stuff, Agya. Whereas if we check... he might have some float or some random stuff that just bets into us because he just thinks, oh, this guy's got ace-king and I'm going to try and attack it. But Basmatch isn't that guy. Basmatch is a fucking idiot. Basmatch only has $15 left. I'll be betting a shade over a half pot here to leave myself with like an 80% pot turn shove and just hope Basmatch is in the... whereas Agyaman probably can't have like ace queen and stuff, Basmatch absolutely can. He can have the few remaining combos of ace queen. He can have king queen. Basmatch is just a shit nitty reg who isn't going to value bet for us. Well, he's not going to value bet thin enough. He's not going to bluff with enough of a frequency for me to start checking aces to him. I'm just going to bet. I'm going to bet like 350, and then just shove the turn. And if he's somehow cooling me with the set, then good for him.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hate
So-
him that little bit more.
Yeah. So I obviously, like you already know, I check
Yeah.
here. He does the same. So now obviously I'm going to start betting. I think the only question is going to be, I think you might be critical of sizings here again. So
Yeah, the problem with this size is it doesn't allow us to shove the river without it being an overbet,
yeah,
which is what we want to do.
yeah. So we need to be a lot bigger than that. Yeah, sort of 4-5.
Yeah, you just need to think like, what do I want to do on the river? Do I want to get all in? If yes, then you've got to make the pot an appropriate size. Because if he calls this is going to be like $10 in the pot, he's going to have 13 behind. So I'm going to have to like shove river 130% pot. Whereas if we made it 350, we'd be shoving river for like 90% pot, and these things matter.
Yeah, yeah. It's again something that I've not quite got my head around that bit yet. So that's it's something I need to take into account a little bit more. I think he does call, and I think what I do on the river is probably pretty poor. Really, it's not. I just like. Don't worry, I don't check, but I'm not convinced the bet size is brilliant. But we go half.
I don't like half here. I could get behind against some opponents, betting tiny, hoping they raced for me so we get the money in that way. This guy wouldn't be one of those people. I would just have gone for the jam still.
Yeah. He does call. And that's what he had.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised to see that. And again, we would have got the lot if we'd have.
Yeah. Well, there is a prime example of him leaving $8 on the table.
Yeah, and it's a prime example of and fair enough, you've only got 54 hands on him. Well, I couldn't hold him as you have. You maybe know a bit more about him than that. But it's a prime example of you not adjusting to your opponents too, because I mean, you might not know much about him as I do, but this isn't a guy you want to be try to trap. You want to be just value betting hard against him and getting out of the way when he raises, because he's just a fucking proper face up shit tight fish. The guy is a fish. When all said and done, he's in the games every day. He's maybe scratching a very, very small win rate, but he's a fish. He's one of the guys that you're looking to make money from. He's 25-13. That's who he is. 25-13 probably doesn't or shouldn't make money. So therefore, he's a losing player in the game. We have a good hand, and we know how to play against him. We just value bet hard against him, and we get out of the way when if you're showing strength and Basmatch doesn't care and shows more strength, you can criminally overfold.
Yeah.
But what you can't do to him is check strong hands, because he won't bet often enough.
No.
Well, we can see that. He's check back
see
flop.
that.
He's flopped top pair, top kicker in a 3-bet pot, and he's gone check back flop, call turn, call river, because he's fucking feeble.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, and I know you must feel like you're always getting mixed messages from me, because we've talked about how that the Doug Polk thing, that the post-up game plan. Then we've talked about how we should do that with our range rather than our actual hand. And then I say I wouldn't have done that against this opponent. But that's because I kind of, when I'm playing well, I know my strategy inside out, and against players who I know, I'm comfortable in knowing how I'm trying to exploit them. And then if it doesn't work, I'll adjust the strategy. So against unknowns, you need to do the post-up game plan thing a lot more. But against people who you're quite familiar with, you need to figure out, how am I exploiting this guy? And I think because your confidence is so up and down, you just don't trust yourself enough yet, or you don't believe in yourself, or maybe you think the games are a bit more aggressive than they actually are. I'm not sure what. I'd probably prefer watching you in a live session one day. Maybe we can do that one of the nights. Maybe even tonight. Not record it or anything, but it's Tuesday night. I'll have fuck all else to do. If you're playing tonight, just drop me a message, and I wouldn't mind even just sweating you for an hour and just watching
Right.
just watching everything in real time, because yeah, I'd like to know your thought processes while they're happening, rather than after the event when you've had time to think about it. And maybe you've identified some things yourself that you do differently, but then it'd be interesting to see why you're not finding them in game, because I don't know how many hands you've got on NL Bass Match, because I know how fucked up Hold'em Manager is, where it just, because I've looked at loads of replayers and I know I've got 5,000 hands on someone, it'll be showing me 600. So if you've only got 54 hands on him, this is maybe a little bit understandable, but it's 25-13. He's got a big gap between his VP and PFR. That indicates this guy isn't likely to be too aggressive. So therefore, I have a strong hand. My opponent's basic stats tell me he's not particularly aggressive. So therefore, I am not going to try and bluff catch against him. Whereas if you're against Aggie here, I'd have more sympathy for the, right, I want to give this guy a chance to be aggressive, because Aggie's an aggressive player, so encourage him to be aggressive. Against Zenarus, look at his stats. Maybe check to him. Maybe he'll be too aggressive sometimes. So therefore, you want to have some strong hands in your checking range, so you can check call down, so you can check raise now and again. Baz Match isn't that guy. You know, against these two other players, I wouldn't mind checking this sometimes, because you can't just, if you just like bet on your strong hands and check on your weak hands, the likes of Agia and Zenores will punish you for it. You can check on your strong hands, check on your weak hands, and bet on your strong hands against Bad Match. It's not going to punish you for it. So against the people who are going to punish you, then balance your range a bit more. Against people who aren't going to punish you, fuck balance, play face up pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. No, that sounds. I mean, it's interesting. I was thinking last night actually about saying it might be worth doing a live sort of sweat type thing, because I think just from a decision point of view, you can you know it might just gain something out of it.
Yeah, well, as far as I'm aware, unless the cunt that I fucking married a few years ago, you know, I mean, that's plans, but I very much doubt she fucking has, because we're both in our fucking late 40s. It's Tuesday night and COVID's rampant. I can't see us having too many things in our social diary for tonight. So there's no reason why we can't do an hour or so tonight, you know, around any time, starting from 7 and 9. We just do like an hour and a half. So if we do 7 till half 7, 8 till half 8, 9 till half 10, whatever, just let us know what time's going to be good for you. And assuming that she's not being a prick, we can probably do it for an hour and a half or so.
Okay, cool.
All right, mate, magic.
Brilliant.
Awesome. Thanks, no worries, dude. So there we go. That was our chat with Simon. It really is my last video before Christmas, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll take the opportunity again to wish you a very Merry Christmas. Do stay safe. Enjoy spending time with your families. Do it in a way that doesn't kill Granny if you possibly can, unless Granny's rich, and then maybe Granny being dead will improve your life. Who knows? But yeah, enjoy Christmas. Enjoy the New Year. Happy New Year. See you again in the New Year. Maybe next week with Simon, but unlikely. And yeah, have a good time. Enjoy yourselves, but be fucking responsible. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you again in the New Year.